He was expelled from the classroom, humiliated in front of his peers, and labeled a political provocateur, all because of the red MAGA hat he refused to remove. The teacher, intoxicated by his own sense of importance, decided to deliver a lesson in discipline, unaware that the boy was the son of someone capable of ending his career in an instant. When the truth came to light, the school didn't just descend into chaos. It became a stage for public disgrace. How did one petty decision spiral into a catastrophe for those who considered themselves untouchable? The school bell echoed across the courtyard, signaling the start of classes. Timmy, a 10-year-old boy with short blonde hair, walked toward the history classroom with a confident stride, holding a backpack adorned with an American flag patch. On his head sat a red MAGA hat, a bold symbol of his beliefs that he wore with pride. To Timmy, the hat wasn't just an accessory. It was a connection to his father, Jonathan Brown, a successful businessman and president of the school council. When Timmy entered the classroom, he immediately sensed the tension. The history teacher, Mr. Peterson, was at the blackboard explaining something about the Civil War. His gaze landed sharply on Timmy, then lingered on the hat. His eyes seemed to flash with irritation. "Timmy, take off that hat," he said curtly, gesturing toward the boy's headgear. "Sorry, Mr. Peterson, but this is my choice. I don't want to remove it," Timmy replied calmly. The teacher frowned, his voice rising. "There's no place for politics in my classroom. I won't allow this lesson to become a circus. Take off that provocation immediately, or leave the room." The class fell silent. Timmy's classmates didn't say a word, though some stifled laughs. Timmy's face reddened, but he didn't remove the hat. Summoning his courage, he firmly responded, "I didn't mean to offend anyone. I believe I have the right to express my beliefs." This was the moment Mr. Peterson's patience finally snapped. He pointed toward the door. "Then go express them somewhere else. Leave my classroom and don't come back until you're ready to follow the rules." Clenching his teeth and fighting back tears, Timmy quietly left the room, leaving behind the muffled laughter of some students and the teacher's grumbling. In the hallway, he paused, trying to process what had just happened. One thought echoed in his mind. "This is unfair, but I won't back down." When Timmy got home, he didn't immediately tell his father what had happened. Instead, he sat in his room, replaying the incident in his mind. His father, Jonathan Brown, had always taught him to stand his ground and be honest. Timmy knew Jonathan would support him, but he wasn't sure if bringing it up was worth it. That evening during dinner, Timmy finally spoke. "Dad, today I was kicked out of class because I wouldn't take off my hat. The teacher said I was breaking the rules," Timmy began, staring down at his plate. Jonathan looked at his son carefully, his calm demeanor almost ominous. He slowly pushed his plate aside, folded his hands, and asked, "Did you try to explain why you were wearing it?" "Yes, but Mr. Peterson wouldn't listen. He just yelled and told me to leave if I wouldn't take it off." Jonathan nodded, his voice steady. "You did the right thing. Now let me handle it." Later that evening, Jonathan picked up the phone. His first call was to the school principal, followed by several members of the school council. He explained the situation clearly and unemotionally, emphasizing that this was about more than a hat. It was about a child's right to express their beliefs. Meanwhile, news of the incident began to spread on social media. A parent who had heard the story from their child posted, "A student was kicked out of class for wearing a MAGA hat. Where's the freedom of speech?" The post quickly gained hundreds of likes and comments. Public opinion became divided. Some supported Timmy, calling the teacher's actions outrageous, while others argued that political symbols had no place in schools. By the next morning, parents had begun gathering outside the school. Some held signs reading, "Freedom of speech for all," while others protested against the politicization of education. Mr. Peterson, learning of the growing scandal, tried to justify himself to his colleagues. "It was a disciplinary measure. I wanted to teach him respect. Is that a crime?" But deep down he knew the situation was spiraling out of control. The next day, Jonathan Brown arrived at the school. His presence was like a bombshell. A tall, confident man in a sharp, dark gray suit, he entered the principal's office, holding a folder in his hand. "We need to talk," he began without preamble. The principal, visibly nervous, invited him to sit, trying to maintain a semblance of authority. "Mr. Brown, I've heard about the incident. Of course, we don't condone such situations, but—" "But?" Jonathan interrupted, his voice calm but charged with tension that seemed to fill the room. "Do you really believe this kind of behavior from your teacher is justifiable?" Jonathan wasted no time making his intentions clear. He demanded an emergency school council meeting. The principal tried to push back, citing bureaucratic hurdles, but Jonathan was unwavering. He knew speed was critical. At the meeting, Jonathan delivered a powerful speech, detailing the unfair treatment his son had endured. He quoted Timmy's words, described the humiliation the boy had faced in front of his peers, and emphasized that schools should teach respect, not suppress individual beliefs. The council members listened in silence. Only Mr. Peterson attempted a defense, but his words sounded feeble against Jonathan's arguments. By the end of the meeting, the principal couldn't hide his sense of defeat. Jonathan, however, left the room confident that change was imminent. 2 days later, the school gymnasium was filled with parents, teachers, students, and even journalists. Tension hung in the air. Timmy sat in the front row with his father, holding his red MAGA hat on his lap. Its bright color had become a symbol of the fight for justice. The meeting began with a hesitant speech from the principal. "We are here to address the recent incident and restore balance." His words sounded weak, and the audience clearly expected more. When Jonathan took the floor, the room fell silent. "A school should teach children respect and freedom. Instead, my son was publicly humiliated for his beliefs. This is not pedagogy, this is bullying," he said, scanning the room. Parents began to speak up. One mother said, "My daughter also complained about the teacher, but I was too afraid to bring it up. Now I realize we need to act." Mr. Peterson tried to defend himself. "It was a pedagogical measure. I was trying to discipline." "Discipline?" Jonathan interrupted. "Or suppress his individuality?" These words drew thunderous applause. The teacher paled and sat down, realizing he no longer had any support. By the end of the meeting, Jonathan demanded an investigation and changes to school policies to protect students from discrimination. His speech concluded with resounding applause, while Mr. Peterson's face turned as white as a sheet. A week later, the results of the school investigation were announced. Mr. Peterson was dismissed for inappropriate behavior and violation of professional ethics. For many parents and students, it was a signal that injustice would no longer be tolerated. The school also introduced new rules prohibiting discrimination against students based on political views or symbols. Timmy returned to school on the first day after the announcement. When he walked into the classroom, wearing his MAGA hat as always, he was met not with ridicule, but with approving smiles and even applause. Several classmates approached him to apologize. One boy, who had been the loudest in mocking him before, said, "Sorry, Timmy, we shouldn't have acted that way. You're a real hero." During recess, the principal approached Timmy. The usually stern man now looked almost embarrassed. "Timmy, I want to apologize for everything that happened to you. You've shown that courage and determination can change the world." For Jonathan, this moment was equally significant. He personally wrote a message that was displayed on the school bulletin board. "Freedom of expression and mutual respect are the foundation of true democracy. I hope this lesson will be important for all of us, adults and children alike." Meanwhile, Mr. Peterson's fate took a turn for the worse. His attempts to find a position at other schools were unsuccessful. News of the incident had spread beyond the town. Left without work or reputation, he realized that his actions had not only led to his downfall, but also cost him the respect of others. Timmy, now confident in himself, became a symbol of change at the school. His hat no longer irritated anyone. On the contrary, it became a symbol of resilience and strength. As he walked through the hallway, holding his textbooks, classmates and even teachers looked at him with admiration. He understood that standing up for the truth was always worth it, even when it seemed impossible at first. That day, he took off his hat only once. at the end of class, when he stood up to thank his classmates for their support. It was a moment when the school truly changed.